Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our daily live for manifesting with the law of assumption to reclaim being the supreme authority of our world. We are going to continue on with the live script workshop that we've been following along to. If you're new here, check out the past videos if you want to follow along in order. Otherwise, welcome back. Now, before we get into this next part, where we are going to start talking more about essentially navigating the different manipulations that have happened or could happen in our outer world as we reclaim our authority, the first and foremost, most important thing that I also find myself having to remind myself, when these things push out, because we're putting our awareness on it, and we are looking at it from a place of authority, saying, okay, if this happened, or if this has happened, or if it's currently happening, instead of avoiding it, instead of fighting against it, or instead of having the intention to fix it, we're not fixing it. We are acknowledging that whatever's going on, like we're about to talk about, if there's like a smear campaign, if people seem to be ganging up on you, or if there's like a pity ploy, like again, these are kind of covert narcissist things that can occur. When it's happening, the only thing to do is to go within, like I talk about, to swallow it, to see it for what it is, to not avoid it, to not fight it, to not fear it. Doesn't mean fear won't come up. Doesn't mean like some past selves won't come up around it. It will. But to reclaim it as, this is my world. This is my world. And this is still a place I hadn't reclaimed it. This is still a place where I was sucked into acting a certain way. I was still sucked into smallness. I was still sucked into modifying my wish fulfilled, modifying my behavior to fix, quote unquote. To me, this is where I would be in the wish fulfilled of something. This would start to happen. I would leave my wish fulfilled. I would leave the end and basically be like, oh, I have to fix everything now. Oh, got to start over, got to start again. There'd always be this upheaval. And if you're doing either of my courses, especially the love course, which is the reclaiming the throne, something that would happen to me over and over again is I would be in a place of power. Like I'd be in my inner world, on my throne, if you will. Like really in the wish fulfilled, feeling really strong. And as I got into that place of power and these things would start to occur, I would leave the throne. I would vacate it. I would be in upheaval. I would react to it. I'd start reacting to the outer world out of just habit, right? But because there'd be such a strong reaction to it, even if I went back to the wish fulfilled, I would notice I heard the inner dialogue that was like, well, that didn't happen. Well, that didn't work out. Oh, I was trying to do that, and then they acted this way, so looks like everything got messed up. Guess it didn't go the way I wanted it to. There'd be all this passivity, all this like rationalization, justification, versus seeing this happening, and that is my opportunity to reclaim it, to stay in my power and see it as part of the bridge, part of this is the unfolding of that manifestation. Because as we come into our supreme authority of our reality, it would make sense that this stuff would come up and out for us to just hold steady, hold the throne, stay in your seat, and notice all the impulses to go out there to fix, to go out there to change, to go out there to people please or convince, to change your self-concept as you were coming into your true one, right? And so this is your reminder. Come back to this as many times as you need to, or especially the Reclaiming the Throne course I would suggest for this one, to stay in your throne. And I think the beauty of looking at this head on the way we're doing, and I hadn't seen it done before with law of assumption, because to me it was always like, don't put your awareness there, don't even look there. But if it's part of your past, and this is part of society at large, right? These things that we're talking about, they're very normal in society. So it's only a benefit to preemptively say, oh, that's what that is. Let me reclaim it right now. I did find the more I was like allowing myself to kind of dig deep, see the patterns, see the narcissistic like habits, whatever, and then revise them. And the more I did it within, I didn't have to experience as much on the outside. It was all the things that I just really wouldn't go there out of the fear of like, oh, I don't want to manifest it. Oh, I don't want to. If it's coming up, it's played out. Swallow it, eat it. This is where we need that courage. We need that bravery. But if we've already preemptively done it, when it does show up, you're just kind of like, oh, I know what to do. There's a road map. This is part of the roadmap. Let's dive in.
Navigating the bandwagon effect and social smear campaigns. The next question comes from a musician who's been the target of a social smear campaign, orchestrated by a narcissist who's recruited others to join in, turning friends and family against him. The pain of betrayal is evident in his voice as he speaks. They've turned everyone against me, he says, his voice tight with emotion. People I thought were my friends, my family, they've all jumped on the bandwagon, believing the lies. How do I fight this? How do I get my life back? You look at him, your expression fierce, commanding. You don't fight it, you say, your voice a low growl that sends shivers down the spines of everyone in the room. You don't play their game. You don't try to convince others of the truth because the truth doesn't need to be defended. It simply is. What you do is revise. You go back to the moment where the smear campaign began and you rewrite it. You see yourself surrounded by people who love you, who support you, who know the truth of who you are. You feel it, you live it, and you let that become your reality. He looks at you, doubt flickering in his eyes. But what if they don't believe it? What if they keep believing the lies? You smile, a wild, untamed smile that lets him know you're in control. It doesn't matter what they believe, you say, your voice filled with authority. It only matters what you believe. Inner Conversation, LLC 2025-51. Everyone is you pushed out. And when you change your inner world, your outer world follows. They will come around because you've decided they will. You don't need to convince them. You simply need to be the truth, live the truth, and let them see it for themselves. And they will, because you've commanded it into being. Dealing with female narcissists and the pity ploy, the session moves on to the topic of dealing with female narcissists, those who use charm, beauty, and a false sense of vulnerability to manipulate and control. One of the clients, a successful entrepreneur, speaks up. I keep getting involved with women who seem perfect at first, but then they turn on me, he says, frustration clear in his voice. They play the victim, make me feel like I'm the one who's wrong. And before I know it, I'm caught in their web. How do I stop this? How do I see them for what they are before it's too late? You lean back, your gaze sharp, assessing. You use the power of assumption, you say, your voice like silk over steel. You assume from the beginning that you see people for who they really are, that no one can deceive you, that you are always in control. You don't let their charm, their beauty, their pity ploys sway you. You see through the mask and you decide that only those who are worthy, who are aligned with your truth, can enter your world. You see him nodding, understanding beginning to take root. And if you do find yourself caught in their web, you continue, your voice a seductive purr. You revise, you go back to the moment where they started to manipulate you, and you rewrite it. You see yourself as strong, clear, unaffected by their games. You assume that you are always in control, that no one can pull you off course. And you let that become your reality. You live it, breathe it, command it into being, because you are the one in charge and they are nothing more than a reflection of your own state. Change your state and they change, or they disappear. Either way, you win. Sexy, commanding mantras for supreme authority and revision. You finish the session by giving them the tools they need to stay in their power, to navigate these toxic dynamics with the authority and conviction of a true dominatrix of reality. Here's what I want you to remember, you say, your voice a purr that sends shivers down their spines. Every time you feel yourself slipping, Every time you feel that doubt creeping in, you say this: I am the power. I am the command. I see through the lies and I stand in my truth. I do not chase. I do not beg. I do not fall. I rise. I command. I dominate. I am the queen of my reality and the world obeys my will. They repeat it back to you. Their voice is strong, filled with the power that you've awakened within them. Again, you command, your voice sharp, leaving no room for doubt. I am the power. I am the command. I see through the lies, and I stand in my truth. I do not chase. I do not beg. I do not fall. I rise. I command. I dominate. I am the queen of my reality, and the world obeys my will. You nod, satisfied, knowing that they finally stepped into their power, that they finally embraced the truth of who they are.
Okay. So something I found so powerful about that segment in general is, at least in my life, I was starting to notice that so much of my world, and again, it's never really about the gender. It's like the world to me kind of held this underlying just narcissistic reality, because that's something I was raised with, right? And I would fall into pity or the need to fix or the need to help a false victim. And technically, anything that you see in your reality is a false victim if you see it as separate than you, right? If you're out there trying to fix the reality and leaving your throne, leaving your wish fulfilled, you're actually not helping anyone. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. And so anytime we get into some external web, into some external, I'm helping another in hopes of this will get me that, or whatever the underlying current is, right? You're leaving your throne. And this is where, when you learn to, especially when it's tricky ones, like the one of guilt was, and still to some degree, but I've gotten so much better. The guilt used to be the impulse I could not resist. If I felt like someone was suffering, if I felt like someone was hurting, right? Why I became a coach, I would just help. I would help, right? Just like I did. That was a pattern for me growing up with a mother that was always ill. And so I was always kind of giving up whatever I had to, throwing it to the side and like, let me help. But again, if we are going to really reclaim our authority and reclaim that this is your world, leaving the throne doesn't help anyone. Helping the mirror does not help anyone. This is where, truly in law of assumption, you stay in your throne. You see it for what it is. And really, anytime you see something that is the illusion of guilt, the illusion of like something's wrong out there, it's your world. Everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. Everything is unfolding. Everything is whole in every moment. So to kind of see it and be like, that's not true. That's a lie. I'm staying right here. And I can obviously always assume, right, the people in my world, instead of whatever was going on, are also full. They're also whole. They're confident. They're able to help themselves. They're able to realize, right, whatever it is that they need to realize, versus going out there and saying, I'm going to go fix the mirror. I'm going to go do this. It is a powerful reclamation, right? And then with the smear campaign or things like that, I found myself also stuck in the trying to defend, trying to do everything possible, trying to get others to see my side and protect me and help me, right? Which was also a learned behavior. And it was radical and terrifying for me to just sit in my truth. And this is, by the way, after in two really big scenarios that I was like, I know I didn't do something wrong, but I still felt this guilt. I still felt this like terror of like what I love is being taken from me. So I was spending all this energy and I completely exhausted myself and got really sick trying to gather the evidence, gather the whatever I needed to protect my business and protect my child, and then convince others to help me. And now, as I've, had time to rebalance my nervous system, rebalance what's happened, and revise it, I'm seeing like, okay, I was again trying to convince the mirror to help me from a place of uncertainty, from a place of I'm the victim. I'm hurting. I tried to do the right thing. This is not fair. Like a lot of my childhood stuff was coming up and out. trying to navigate systems out there, and being really cruel to myself on the inside, really hard on myself for not doing everything perfectly, versus going within. And no matter what is happening out there, being like, I know my truth. And as long as I know that, and I know this is my world, and I stand so solid in my throne and my truth, and I start to really imagine a world that sees my truth, that supports my truth, and I don't move. That is the only way we will manifest that wish fulfilled. Every time we leave the throne, we go out there, we exhaust ourselves, we overextend, we try to do the right thing, and we do like the martyr thing. At least for me, it's the martyr thing. The mirror can only then replicate more of that martyrdom. And at least growing up, that's all I saw, was a world where women did not center themselves. They centered other, and the health problems, the just no recognition, no praise, no anything. It's like we have to give it to ourselves. We have to sit in our throne. We have to say, okay, I know my truth. I know this is my world. And I have the power in me to pull in, to magnetize, to hear the people that support me, that stand in my truth. And where the real battle is not to give up myself, not to give up my power anymore, to not leave my wish fulfilled, not leave my throne. And then as we learn to do that, and then have so much grace and patience for ourselves, because they're hard pulls, they're hard impulses, right? But again, as you kind of have a map like this, ideally, so you're going to feel the impulse and be like, no, I'm just going to stand in my truth. And I'm going to see this world. I'm going to call it out for what it is. I'm going to see it. I'm going to face it and be like, that's a lie. That's not true. So what is the truth? The truth is, I'm the truth. Let me feel what it's like for others to stand by my truth, to support me in this, without me having to give myself, without me having to sacrifice myself for my power, because sacrifice creates more sacrifice, versus standing in my power, going within, creates others coming from without to support my within. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we will continue tomorrow.